Well, hello there. So the video you're about to watch will teach you how to build an advanced task and project manager inside of Notion from scratch. We are going to go from a blank page to building a system that you could use to replace apps like Todoist or even Asana. In fact, that is what I've done both for my personal tasks and for my entire business. Now, one thing that I'll note before we get started is that the system we're going to build in this tutorial, I've already built it and I've released it as a public template. So if you just want to use it and you just want a task manager for Notion, I have a video that is much shorter than this one in the description down below, along with the public template link. So check those out if you're just looking to get tasks inside of Notion. But if you want to learn how to build this system and you want to gain a deeper understanding of Notion, well, grab yourself a cup of coffee or whatever it is you drink when you watch long tutorials, and let's roll that intro. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a longer Notion tutorial. Today we are going to be building an advanced task management system from scratch. Hopefully in doing this, you'll be able to learn some of the inner workings of Notion and also the inner workings of this template if you want to use it. So we've got the ultimate tasks thing here. I'm going to have it on my other monitor for reference while I build a blank version. We'll go back here. I like to keep my templates in a database so I can keep a change log here. So what we're going to do is just create a blank page right here. And we'll call Ultimate Tasks from scratch. So the first thing that I do when I know I'm making a big template like this is I go up here and I set full width. And I'm probably not going to do all the jumping around in Premiere to zoom in on things, so you may want to watch this one in full screen. Just because this one's going to be so long, I'm going to prioritize just getting it created instead of making it nice and high quality and everything like that. Let's go ahead and add our cover, and I'm going to change it, upload my custom image. So you got to make it look pretty. It's very, very important to make your templates look pretty. Otherwise, what are you even doing? So the task system that we're going to build here uses a master tasks database. And this is very useful because once you have a master tasks database, I guess I can throw myself here. Once you have a master tasks database, you can create linked database views to show yourself what you want to see, whether it be an inbox or a next 7 days view or a priority view. So the first thing we need to do is actually create that all tasks, like master task database. So we're going to create a page, or we're going to create a table here. And we'll make it a full page, and let's just call this all tasks. And I am going to put -scratch after everything I create here. And the only reason I'm doing this is I've already got here in my existing Ultimate Tasks template, I've already got a database called all tasks. So when I'm searching for this database later on to create my linked views, I need something unique so it's not confusing me and bringing up the other one. Otherwise, you could just call it all tasks, but because I already have that, I'm going to call it something different here. Let's add an icon and we'll make it this little scroll. Seems something good for like an archive of every task. And now what we need to do is create all of our properties, which is Notion's term for columns, essentially. So we've got our name, which is the sort of key value of this database. It is the one thing you can't delete. It is also the page that will let you go into additional pages. So we're going to call this task, and then we have quite a few different rows to create here. So the first one we'll do is just a checkbox called done, and this is what will allow you to clear at least one-time tasks. If you've seen my recurring task video, you know that we don't use this to clear recurring tasks due to Notion's current limitations. We're also going to create one called state, and this is going to be a formula block. I'll show you how this works a little bit later, and we're just going to paste the formula in, but I will give you a quick look at how the formula works if you're curious. I'll also do a more in-depth video, or probably a series of videos on formulas at some point in the future. So we've got that. We're coming along pretty quickly here. And now we got to have the due property, which is going to be a date. This is very important for a task manager. Can't really have a task manager without due dates unless you just, want to wing it. And right next to that, we'll have one called next due. So this one is going to be a formula, and we will put a bunch of code in here later, and this is what is going to run our recurring tasks function, but we'll get to that in a bit. Next, let's create, and there's going to be a couple that we can't create yet because they're going to be relations to other databases that don't yet exist, at least one. So first we're going to create something called recur interval and days. Now, the name doesn't necessarily matter for you if you're coding your own formulas. I'm going to use the exact same names for my columns here that I do in Ultimate Tasks. That way I can paste in my formulas without having to rename properties in those formulas. So this recur interval, if we put a number here, is going to tell next due when the next due date should be based on due date. And this is what basically runs recurring tasks. So I'll show you a bit more about this once we have the code in there and you can see a visual example. But essentially you can put 1 in here to tell yourself this task recurs every day. And if you had 2 in there, that would be an every other day task. Next we're going to do one called type. And this is also going to be a formula. This will change based on whether or not recur interval has a number in it. If it does, this will say recurring. And if it doesn't, this is going to say one time. So that's pretty important. And we're going to create a created time, which we'll just call created. I'm not sure if you need this for any of the formulas or filters we're building now, but I find that it's useful just to have created time in there. And then we can also have created by. So this one will be helpful if you're running a team. You may want to see who created a task. Likewise, we can also put assignee in here. Now we're not going to be using assignee in this tutorial here. Ultimate Tasks is a template that is built for personal productivity, but if you have an assignee column in here, you could click anybody in your workspace and you could assign a task to them, and then you could easily build a filter view based on assignee, which is pretty great for team task management. My upcoming course on Notion for creators and teams will get heavily into team task management. So if you want to learn more about that, I'll put a link in the description down below. Otherwise, it'll be thomasjfrank.com/Notion course. Let's see here. What else can we do? We're going to put a few Kanban things in here. So if you want to use like Trello style Kanban boards, this will be helpful for you. And I use a couple. First one is called Kanban state. And we're going to use a select property, not a multi-select. We're going to use a select. So only one of the options in here can be chosen at any one time. And what we're going to put in here is to do, doing, and done. So these are our classic Kanban states. And let's go ahead and give them some more fitting colors. So we'll call this green, and then we'll put done as blue. And then, why don't we just go ahead and duplicate this one? We're going to create one for tags. So one thing that I like to do, and I can show you real quick, if we bring up Ultimate Tasks over here, in my project views, like this website redesign project, I like to organize my projects by task type. So for a web design project, we've got design tasks, we've got copy that we need to write for different pages, we've got speed, we've got security. I like to keep tasks in columns based on what they kind of are and what categories they fit into. This is what we did in Trello to build basically every version of my website since 2013. So the Kanban tag column or property is what lets you do that. So what we want to do here is actually get rid of these options, and we're going to leave it blank for now. So I'm a little bit laissez-faire about Kanban tag. Like I said, for a web design project, we may have tags like design, copy, speed, security. For moving to a new house, we may have packing, basement, living room, kitchen, whatever you want. Eventually, you might end up with a bunch of different tag ideas or different tags here, but this will let you build out projects as you want. So right now, we'll keep them blank, and when we create new projects, we can just create those tags on the fly, but we do want to have this property at least there as an option for us. So let me go back to my reference here to see what we need to make next. I do wish I could just memorize everything, but it's pretty complicated, so it's kind of hard. The next is going to be task priority. So we'll just call that priority. And this will be yet another select. And then we are going to give it options of medium, low, and high. And I'm going to do it in this order. So just like with our Kanban stages, I do want to give these some more fitting colors. We'll just go with orange here, and for high we'll go with red, I suppose. Or maybe we'll make orange, or we'll make the low blue. Yeah, it's kind of like a cool task. So I'm using medium first here. And the reason will become clear later when I talk about filters as forcing functions, which essentially is my fancy term for using filters to make new rows take on a specific property by default instead of being empty and making you fill in that priority. I want all my tasks to be medium priority by default, so I need medium to be the first option here because of how Notion works. We'll get into that a little bit later. The next thing we're going to do is something a little bit fancy. We're going to create a relation, but we're going to create a relation to this database. So typically, when you create a relation, it says here, create a relation to another database. You're relating this database, the all tasks database, to another database. And just as an example, we'll come back to the completed ultimate tasks here. We have a project property here. This is a relation to, if I go back, not that far back, the projects database, which allows you to create project rows that exist in a projects database and then relate them to specific tasks. So this task is related to web design project. All of these ones are. And vice versa, if I click into this row in the projects database is related to all of these tasks. Relations go two ways. But you can also relate a database to itself. So when we select a database, we're going to search for all tasks-scratch, doing a self-relation. And it gives you a choice here of whether you want to use the same property or you want to create two properties syncing both ways. So what we're creating here is subtasks and parent tasks, which means that we need to create a new property because the one we're creating right now is subtasks, but for every subtask, there needs to be a parent task. And then the parent tasks will have a one-to-many relation in some cases where the parent task will be related to many subtasks, but we need two categories here. So we'll go ahead and create this relation. And let's just go ahead and call this one subtasks and rename this one that is auto-generated to parent tasks, or parent task, I suppose, because there won't be multiple parent tasks. I suppose you could actually let one subtask be related to multiple parent tasks. And I guess if you wanted to get into some like recurring maintenance tasks for many parent tasks, you could do that, but we're not going to do that in this example. So we've got that. And what else do we need to create now? One last column, and it's just going to be a checkbox that we call inbox. This will be a simple checkbox property, and when we create our inbox view, we will create a filter to only show tasks that have the inbox box checked, and then we will also force new rows created in that view to be checked. This can be very useful. So this is pretty much it. Let's go ahead and give our tasks some names, just so they have names. We don't want these blank tasks here for no reason, right? Task 3. So this is the structure of our all tasks database. And to finish this up, we just need to get our formulas in our 3 formula columns here: state, next due, and type. And what I'm going to do is just paste the formulas in from Ultimate Tasks instead of trying to code them from scratch. And if we go into Ultimate Tasks, you're going to see that these formulas are compressed and they're pretty difficult to read. So one thing that I've added is if you come down to the bottom of the template, there's a toggle called changelog. You can open this up and click into this sort of metadata page that contains both the template along with demo versions, but also a formula reference. And in here, we've got code blocks that show the compressed version, but also an expanded version using an online Excel beautifier tool, which basically works perfectly on Notion formulas, to show you the expanded version. So if you want to study how these formulas work, you can do that here. This one is using a very complicated, or I guess not super complicated, but very long nested if statement chain. This one took days to write, so there's a lot going on here, and there's some math going on to do the recur interval correctly. And then this one's actually very simple. It just changes the type from one time to recurring if the recur interval has a number in it, like I said. So if you want to study those, that's where they're going to be. For now, we're just going to go back to Ultimate Tasks and grab our formulas and copy them. So first we'll do state, grab that, copy it, and then come into our little Scratch database here and paste it. Should work just fine. So because all of these tasks have no due date, right now their state is white, but if I go ahead and set this due date today, we're gonna get green. If I go ahead and set this due date to yesterday, we'll get red. And if I set this one to tomorrow, we will get blue. And while I'm thinking about it, why don't we sort this master task database real quickly? We're probably not gonna have to come in here too much because you'll be using other views that are more useful, but if you need to come in here, it's nice to have it sorted. So first, let's sort by done. And we'll put done tasks at the bottom, just so they are kind of out of the way. And then we'll create a second sort, which is going to be due, and we'll sort due based on ascending. So now we've got all things by due date, but also all tasks going to the bottom if they are done. That's pretty useful to have. So we've got our sort, and the next one that we would do is next due, except next due's formula is dependent on there being something in type. So we're gonna go ahead and do type first. And we'll grab that code from there, come back on over, and paste it in. So now you can see anything with a recur interval set is going to be given a type of recurring. Otherwise, by default, it is one time. And now that this has some code and is outputting some information, we can go back and we can grab our next due formula, which is the most complicated one that we have. So if we come into here, paste this, should work just fine. And now we have next due dates. So now we've got all of our formulas in here. So the next thing we want to do is create a projects database so then we can create the relation between all tasks and projects. So to do that, let's go back to our ultimate tasks from scratch, which is still looking pretty blank. And we'll create a gallery inline table. We'll call it projects. Again, scratch, just so I have a unique table name here. And we'll delete these. And the reason we're going to delete these, we're going to delete all of them, is because what we want to do is create a template that we can spawn for new projects. So I don't want to do a whole bunch of work inside of a already existing row and then have to copy it over the template. Let's make the template first. But before we do that, let's create a relation now that this exists. We can come back into all tasks, and we can go all the way over to the right and create another relation to projects. We'll just call it project. And one person did ask me when I did the Ultimate Tasks overview video, can you relate a task to multiple projects? And yes, you can. That is very easy. You would just go in there and add multiple projects. So projects, Scratch is what we're looking for. Create the relation, and now we have a relation to project. Easy peasy. So now let's go ahead and create our project template in the projects database. To do that, we can just go over to the little arrow button next to new and hit new template. And let's just call this project template. And one thing that I'm going to do while I'm here, we can add properties to this database from any page within the database. One thing I'm going to do is add a property called archive. And what this will let us do is archive old projects so they don't show up in this database. We can create an archive for them later on. Otherwise, if you get a lot of projects, you're going to have all kinds of stuff all over the place. So, and I don't think we need tags here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. Just don't think it's necessary. All right, so the main thing that we want in our project page is a linked view to all tasks, a linked database block. So if you type the slash and you go for linked database, this will allow you to search for a database. And we're going to search for all tasks, Scratch. So now we get, essentially, it's not a copy of all tasks. It is all tasks, but it's showing it in a different area of Notion. And in addition to showing it in a different area of Notion, if I open this as a page and go ahead and let it be full width, all of the sorts and all of the filters that we create here and the orders of the columns, the properties, are going to be unique to this instance of this linked database. So if I go ahead and move done and inbox and I go to all tasks, they have not moved from the way that I've set them up here, which is very useful. So I'm going to hit Command or Control bracket to go back. This is essentially a custom view of this database. And this is really the power of a master tasks database in letting you build a multi-view system like this. It's also what will let you build any other kind of system, a note-taking system, though in another video I'll get into why I don't use a master database for note-taking, for a wiki, for an archive of content you've created. This is kind of the general idea. So what we want to do here is start creating some useful filters and sorts. So the main thing is, well, number one, we want to filter tasks in this view by them being related to this project. And something really cool about Notion is if you create a filter here, and the filter is where project contains and project template, then this is what I call forcing function. Because if I create a new task here, in this database. We'll just call it project task 1. Well, if we look at the project that it is associated to, it is associated to the project template automatically. You don't have to set this. Because we're creating new rows in a linked view that has a specific filter, then by definition, these new rows have to meet this filter criteria. So Notion will force them to take on those properties. You can use this to automatically set a project, to automatically set a parent task when we get into building our parent task and subtask template, to automatically set a priority, a Kanban stage, all kinds of very useful stuff. So if we come over to Ultimate Tasks and we look at the template that we have going on here, we can see we've got some of these forcing functions in our filter criteria. We've got project contains project template, ultimate tasks. We also have where Kanban and priority is not empty. And then we have some other ones that are not forcing functions, but they will just let you clear done tasks when you're done. So we'll go ahead and build those now in our template. So again, we've got our forcing function, and let's go ahead and give this an icon just to make it visually distinctive. Purple umbrella is perfectly fine for now. So the other two forcing functions we're going to create, and we'll put these in a group. And notice that we're going to use and then we're going to use and in here. So the group is not necessarily a necessity. It's just good for visual organization. So we're going to go with Kanban stage is, and you could do is, and you could select all three of these. So technically what you could do is you could do is to do, and is doing, and is done. But there's a much smarter way to do it, where Kanban stage is not empty. So when I talked about the order of our Kanban stage being important earlier, this is where it really comes in. Now where Kanban stage is not empty, I'll show you if I create a new task, it's going to get to do immediately. If I had doing here on top, now if I create a new one, it's going to get doing. The top select criteria you have is the one the forcing function is going to set for any new row. So whichever one you want to be the default, make that the top. And note that if I create a view here, which is a board view, and we'll use this temporarily, and if I go to sort by or group by Kanban stage, I can move these around. I could put doing first. I could put to do all the way over here. And even so, to do is still on top. So your board views do not need to match this. Make sure whatever is your intended default setting for a property is the top one if you're going to use a forcing function. So because I don't want to duplicate work, we're going to delete this view until I finished with my filters in this view. And also notice that when we create more forcing functions, like say priority, these would disappear if they didn't have a priority. So while I'm setting up my filters, why don't we just get rid of these tasks so we don't have to go find them later on. So we have our Kanban is not empty. We're also going to do and where priority is not empty. And the nice thing is it will automatically keep some of these things when you create a new row, which is pretty nice. So our forcing functions are done. All new tasks in this project will be related to the project. We'll have a Kanban state of to do because it's the top one, and we'll have a priority of medium because it is the top one. Our forcing functions are all here. Now let's create some filters for getting done tasks out of our hair when they are done. So if we look back at ultimate tasks, this is a little bit complicated, and the reason is that we need to build in some logic for using recurring tasks, but also one-time tasks, and also letting you use Kanban tables if you want. So the first one is going to be, number one, turning this into a group, so it is easy. And then we're going to turn this into a subgroup because we're doing an either or at this point. So this is where groups in Notion are very, very useful when you need to mix and then or criteria. So notice here we're doing and. We could technically not have this in a group. We could have where project contains project template and Kanban is not empty and priority is not empty. Those could all be on one level. It doesn't matter. The moment you need to mix and then or is where the levels, the sublevels matter. So for this third sublevel here, we're going to create where done is not checked and where type contains, and we need to actually type this in exactly as is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it from my existing template so I can get that emoji. And Kanban stage is not done. So if any of these are true, we won't see the task here in this view. And basically this is saying if one-time tasks are either checked off as done or they've been moved into a done column. Let's get rid of them. Or type contains recurring. So this will make sure that any recurring task does not fit into this criteria and will stay there because recurring tasks get filtered by date. And that's basically it. I think that's all we've got for the filter in the table view. So really, we're ready to go here. And the only thing you may want to do to finish out this template is to add some more views to your template here. So one thing that I wish Notion could do at the moment, which it cannot do, is duplicate a view right off the bat, even if there isn't a secondary view, which as far as I know, you can't do that. So what we need to do is add a view, and we'll just call it null because we don't actually want it. Just so we can now select views. So null, again, we don't want it. What we want is to take table view and duplicate it, and then rename it and give it a new type. So let's call this board view state. And we're gonna give that a type of board, hit enter. And now this has the same filter criteria as our table view, but it's a board view. And if we go here to group by, we can choose where we want to group by. I'm gonna go with Kanban stage. So now to do, doing, done, you got your classic Kanban. And because we built a forcing function, nothing is ever going to be given no stage unless you create it here. So why don't we just go ahead and hide this? Now you've got a perfectly good Kanban board. If you look at Ultimate Tasks, there's also a nearly identical view for tag, where it's just sorted by tag. There's a calendar view, there's completed tasks. I will let you look at these yourself and create them because we are already at half an hour. So this is left as an exercise to the viewer to create the rest. But one thing that we did forget to do, well, number one, let's delete our null view now that we don't need it because we now can choose which view we want. We may want some sort criteria as well. So filters essentially tell us what we will or won't see in any view, and then sort is what's going to tell that view how to order those rows. So the way that I have them sorted in Ultimate Tasks is simply by due in ascending order. That's it. And that is your linked database. So now if I create a new task, we'll call that project task, Scratch. It's got a Kanban stage by default. It's got a priority by default. It's got a project template by default. It's associated with this project template because it was created here due to this filter. And then I guess the last thing we may want to do is come into properties and choose what properties we want to show for this project. So we don't need inbox because this isn't the inbox. We may not need assignee if we're doing this for personal productivity. We may not need created or created by. We do want due. We may want these. We may want prior tasks, we may not. I'll leave that up to you. We can leave them open. We may want priority. We may want all this kind of stuff. So let's leave it. And then of course we can move them and change their size as needed as well. So I like to have state here. I like to have done right next to it. I like to have task right there. Do is good. And then I like to have type, which we can go find. Let's put type right here. And then we'll put next to right next to type. So if there is a recurring task, we'll see that date. You can go ahead and order these and hide these at your will. One thing is you may also want to hide this relation. There's no need for you to see that this task is associated with this project because you're in this project's view. So this is kind of just an unnecessary thing to see. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. The other really nice thing, and this is what's great about doing project management in Notion, is this page can be whatever you want. So why don't we create a call out block? And in bold text, we will just type project overview. So now when you spawn an instance of this template, you could write down a quick little few lines about what the project is about. And then why not create a toggle? And we can just use the greater than sign space to create a toggle very quickly and just call it project details. And I want to bold that just because I can. So we put that there. Open it up. We could create really anything we want. If we wanted to link to stuff, we could. If we wanted to create a page, we could. If we wanted to just add some details, we could. But if you're doing a big project and you maybe want to dump a bunch of research, or you want to take a bunch of notes, or you want to hash out a bunch of stuff, you can do it here, and then you'll be able to see all your tasks alongside your details. So that is our template. Now, one thing we're going to want to do is clear this task, because if we don't clear it, it's going to be in every copy of the template we generate, and it's already associated with the template itself. So we'll empty that out and have it completely blank for the project. And I guess we must have created this one earlier, so let's go ahead and delete that one as well. We want no tasks associated with this project. We want it completely blank. Now that we've done that, we can go back to our little Ultimate Tasks from Scratch homepage, and either we can go to New, the arrow here, and click Project Template, or just create a new row and then generate from the template. Let's do that real quick. Let's just call this example project Scratch. If I click this, you'll see one of Notion's coolest features in action. So remember, if we go ahead and bring this property of project back in, remember that in the template we associated the project to the template itself, but now we have an instance. So what's very useful here is that if we create a task and we call it project, I guess example project task 1, it is going to be associated not with the template, but with the instance that we just created, which is very, very useful. So now anything you create in here is associated with that project. Perfect. So we've got that done, and with it, the project section of our Ultimate Tasks from Scratch template is done, which is great. So now we can come back here and start building out our useful views. So one thing that we have in Ultimate Tasks, if we go back to the dashboard, is in addition to our projects view and our little views here, we have a daily tasks database. And this is essentially like a little Scratchpad, which you can create every day if you want. Again, I like to use a whiteboard sometimes to write out my tasks. This is like a virtual whiteboard where I can just jot down things that don't need to be in the actual database with all their details, or where I can take things from my today view maybe, or my next 7 days view, and plan out my day just in a very, very simple checkbox. So to create that, we're just going to create another gallery inline database. And again, these are all databases: gallery, table, list, board, calendar. They're all just different ways to view a database block. And if we hit add view, we can add different types of views to the same database. So we're just going to call this one daily tasks. Again, Scratch. So I have that unique little term that I can search for. And we'll just delete the little default rows we got here. Now, I want this to be to the side of this. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't really work in Notion with inline databases. They just will not let you put things to the side. So what I'll often do is create a header block. And doesn't matter what's in it, could be 21. And then I can duplicate that. And what I find is these blocks are very easy to nest next to each other. And from there, you can grab your inline databases and nest them underneath these blocks. And then you can delete these blocks and your columns still hold fast. Now, these are a little big for me, especially if I'm gonna have a lot of projects going on. So if I go into properties, I'm gonna set the card size to small, and I'm gonna set the card preview to page cover. We don't have a page cover right now, but we can easily create one if we want. And I'm gonna go ahead and just let that stay as default. And there we go, it looks cool. With daily tasks, I'm gonna leave the preview to be the boxes, but I do want it to be small as well. And then we can change the columns sizing here. So I've got daily tasks Scratch right there. And if we look over at Ultimate Tasks, we have got a little bit of filtering going on, and we've got a daily tasks archive. So why don't we create those real quick? First and foremost, number one, we're gonna have to bring this back out so we have access to these little areas. Let's filter. And first, we need some properties, I guess. So tags, we don't need. Let's get rid of them. Unless you want to keep them, you can. I want one called archive, so I can archive old notes I no longer need to see. And I want one called date. And we're good to go there. So that is good. Let's check what we've got going on here. Date is on or before today. And once again, we're going to create a forcing function. So if we go into the filter criteria for this view, we want archive to not be checked, and we want date to be on or before today. This is a forcing function. that will automatically give new rows a date of today. And let's just call this 10/30/2020. Nope, not 2021. And I didn't really think we need a template for this. Here, we're just going to create things like to-dos. So if you use left bracket, right bracket, you get a to-do. And do the thing. Do the win. Do the thing, win the points, do a sports. You can check all these off. Also, look at this. If I do maybe I want to do 11 a.m. Now I have a little time reminder, which is pretty cool. So we'll see this here because it is not archived. If I archive it, it's going to go away. Perfect. But maybe we want to be able to see all of our daily tasks in one area. So let's create a page and let's call it Daily Tasks Archive. And again, my little scratch, just in case I need to reference it. And just as we did with our project template, we're going to create a linked database. And we're going to search for daily tasks, Scratch. And from here, we can create different filter criteria. In fact, I'm going to create no filter criteria. I'm only going to create a sort. And I'm going to go by date, descending. So I get a history, an archive. And, an archive probably needs some sort of archive-y cover photo here. So why don't we look at the Unsplash thing and type in library. Perfect. We got some books. We got our archive. We're trucking right along. So this is starting to look a little bit more like Ultimate Tasks, which I clicked away from. All we need now is our views for inbox, today, next 7 days, priority view. We're going to be good to go. So let's go ahead and create those, and that will round out this tutorial. So we've got our all tasks database. And just as we did within our project template, we're going to create a view that contains a linked database. So to do that, what we need to do is hit the plus icon here to get ourselves a new block, and we're going to create a page. And this page we'll call inbox. And let's give it an inboxy icon. Give it a full width. And once again, we're going to do a linked database. You're going to see a theme here. Linked database is all the way down. And it's going to be all tasks, Scratch once again. And now we see everything. So what we need to do is create, again, one set of filters that will be forcing functions to make new tasks placed in the inbox have the properties that we want. And then another set of filters to allow us to clear tasks out of the inbox when we want them to. So if we're trying to recreate something that is essentially, and I can, move myself here to present to you a bit better. If we're trying to create something that is essentially like a stand-in for Todoist, but within Notion, then when we think about the inbox, what do we want? Well, we want tasks to be there until either we've done them or until we've sorted them into a better place, like a project, or we've at least gotten them into a date-based view. So the way that we do that in Ultimate Tasks, if we bring it back over here, is with this little inbox checkbox that we created before. And if you look at the filter criteria, we've got some forcing functions. And this actually down here is a forcing function. It says where inbox is checked. So anything new created here will have the inbox box checked. And then once you uncheck it, it will disappear. So the idea is you'd create a new task and you'd add some details about it. And once you have maybe a due date or you've associated with a project, you could uncheck inbox if you don't intend to do that task right away. So let's go ahead and create that now. Again, I'm going to want some certain properties to be hidden here. I don't need assignee, created by. I don't necessarily care about Kanban states in here. Again, forcing functions will apply to hidden properties. This is just not showing things. So if I go ahead and say like it needs to have a Kanban stage, can't be empty, even if I hide this, it's still going to happen, which is perfect. I can do that with priority as well. Maybe I don't care about that. I only care about these things. So inbox will be the first thing in this view, so I can easily check it off. We'll have done, we'll have state, and I like having state right next to inbox. And why don't we put done right next to state? We'll have task here, we'll have due here, we'll have type in between next due and due, so I can easily see visually that some tasks are recurring and some are one time. And then we could have projects, parent tasks, recurrent of all maybe should be next to next due. And yeah, this is a pretty decent looking inbox view here. So let's go ahead and create our sorts and filters. First and foremost, our forcing functions. And we can create, and why don't we just make it more efficient and put them all in one group. So we're going to say where inbox is checked, and not or, we want it to be and Kanban stage is not empty. So it could be any stage, but we want to make sure it's not empty. And again, we're using that forcing function to force it to the first one listed. And priority is not empty. So we're getting all that. These are our forcing functions. And beyond that, we want some filters that allow us to clear things out of the inbox very easily. So what that's going to be is, again, our same double nested group of filters. So we'll create a double nest here. The first one being for our one-time tasks. So where type contains, and I need to go ahead and copy that from another monitor, and done is not checked, and Kanban stage is not done. So if you've got a Kanban view somewhere else and you move a card to done, the way I've got Ultimate Tasks set up is, actually I'll show you here. If you go over to board view state, if I move something to done, it'll stay here. But even though it's got the inbox thing checked, because of our filter that where done is not checked because of our filter of where Kanban done is not present on the table view, it's not going to show there anymore. But it will show here because some people, when using Kanban, want to see the cards they have done. So we're not going to make it disappear unless you actually check done, then it will actually disappear from here. So let's keep that there where I had it. So we've created those. And lastly, we need the filter for our recurring tasks. So or type contains, and I'll go copy that so I don't have to find the emoji. Recurring. So now inbox task is here. It's been automatically, if we click into it, given a Kanban stage of to do, given a priority of medium, and due is empty because we're not forcing any due dates here. But inbox is checked. So I can go ahead and create a due date, let's say today. Now our state changes to green because it's due today. If it was yesterday, it'd be red, overdue. And if it's after today, it is blue for something planned in the future, but that does have a due date. Let's let it be today. And let's say I want to clear it out of the inbox. So I can just click inbox and now it's gone. We will see it very soon when we create the today view, but we have one last thing to do here, which is to create one more linked database. And that is going to be for our daily tasks Scratch database. So once again, we need to create our filters here. And this is going to get easier after we've done it once. So it's going to be where archive is not checked and where not created, where date is on or before today, just as we had it on the dashboard for Ultimate Tasks. And this is a table. Why don't we go ahead and we're going to have to create a null view. This is very annoying, but this is how it works right now. So null, and then we can duplicate that one. Actually, we don't even need to duplicate it. Now that I think about it, once we've created a null view, we've got options to change this. Let's just go ahead and change table view to a gallery view, which I like a little bit better. Delete our null, and we can change our size settings. Again, I want this to be small, and we have to use our little header trick. So we'll just call it UDD for, I don't know, doing deeds. I don't know anymore. I'm not an improv performer. You're not here to hear jokes. You're here to learn Notion. So we'll do our little column trick. I don't know why that grabbed there. And then we can delete you, and resize. So now we have an empty version of our inbox view here. And again, you can use our little duplicating trick to create different views. So here in Ultimate Tasks, we have the table view. And if we look at our filters, they are like so. If we go over to the list view, this is a copy of table view just changed. And you can always change the type of view here to a list view. Lists are great for mobile because if you're on mobile and you're looking at table, it's going to get real squished down. You're going to have to scroll side to side. That's not very easy. But the list view squishes everything down by default, which is perfect for your phone. So what I would do is duplicate the table view, change the duplicate over to list view, and then come in here and select the properties that are really important to you when you're on the go. Additionally, you can move properties around. So if I take state and I move it like that, you're going to see it changed. So I want certain things in certain orders. Namely, I want my inbox checkbox over here because it's not labeled. I need to make sure I know where it is, and then I'll have done right next to state. Perfect. So if you're going to build this from yourself, just go ahead and duplicate those views and you'll be good to go. And now that we have this with our filter criteria all set, what we can do to save ourselves some time is to simply duplicate inbox and use that to create our other views. So instead of copy of inbox, we're going to call this one today. Not today, but today. Let's find ourselves a calendar emoji. Why not this one? Works pretty well. It's not March 21, but you know what? I guess that's what they stick on the emoji. And all we need to do here is change our filter. So these forcing functions, Kanban, priority, that's exactly what we want. Type, exactly what we want. All of this is exactly what we want. All we want to change here is instead of inbox is checked, we want where due is on or before today. And what that's going to do is show us any task that is due either today or that is overdue. So if I make it overdue, I'm going to see it. If I make it due tomorrow, it's gone. Today view is perfect. So now you have a perfect place where you can come and look at what you have due today. And because it is a page and it's not a database row, you're going to have it accessible from your sidebar very easily. So one more date-based view, duplicate today, and we're going to call this one next 7 days. And you could do this as much as you want. Next 14 days, next month. Well, actually, let me potentially take that back. Let's look real quick. So let's call this next 7 days. So you may run into a limitation of Notion's filters at the moment because you can do due is on or before, and your options are today, 1 week from now, 1 month from now, or you get to an exact date where it starts getting less useful as days go on. So I guess you could do a 1 month upcoming, and then you could sort just to make sure you can see things. It looks like you're not going to be able to do 2 weeks unless there was some sort of filter that you could create with a formula, which we could maybe do, but it's going to be beyond the scope of this tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and hit that as 1 week from now. And hey, there is our task 1 week from now. And I guess one thing we forgot to do, which was a little bit of a boneheaded move on my part, which would be to create a sort before duplicating all these pages. I should have done that. So let's go with do ascending, and we can just add that to each one. Yeah, duplication of effort, don't like it, but it takes about, 20 seconds to do this. So not too bad. If we create that, do ascending. Now we've got ascending due dates. So here we go, next 7 days. We can see the task that is due today. We can see the task that is due the 31st. If we create a new one, the forcing function will force the due date to be November 6th, which is 7 days from now. That is just how it works. So we'll just call this task 2. And we can just go ahead and change the due date. Let's just say this one is due, the 3rd of November. Remember the 3rd of November, I guess? And from any of these views, you can go ahead and associate a new task with a project. So we had our example project. Why don't we just associate this task with that? And if we go over to that project, we're going to see task 2 is now in that project view, which is pretty sweet. So what else do we have to do? Well, we have a couple of little cleanup tasks before we're done with this recreation. We've got our priority view, and then we've got subtasks. So let's do those, and we'll be wrapping up this tutorial. Looks like it went a little over an hour. As I record this, there may be some cuts, so we'll see. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate once more our next 7 days view, and we're gonna call this one priority view. And why don't we give this a priority-esque emoji, like a siren. Okay, and because priorities are, I think, best shown as boards, like a Kanban style, what we need to do is, number one, create ourselves a null. And we'll just call it null. Don't want it, don't care about it. But our table view has our filters and our sorts that we want to keep, possibly tweak a little bit. But let's go ahead and change that table view over to a board view. So now we've got ourselves a board view, and we're going to want to sort, because we're creating priority view, by priority. And because of our forcing function, right, we've got our priority is not empty on basically all of our views. In fact, even on our all tasks view. I went and did this kind of off camera, but I added our forcing functions again here just to make sure that no matter where you create a task, it's going to get a Kanban stage and a priority. Because of that, over here in priority view, we're never going to see anything here in no priority. So we're just going to go ahead and hide that. And because of how board view works, if you create a new task under high or low or whatever, you don't even need this forcing function to make sure it gets that priority. If I create one at high, normally, again, medium is the first one listed, but if I create a high priority task, like this, then if I come in here, we're going to see that it is given the priority of high just because of where I created it. But it also has that to do. And again, just to reiterate this, because I created it in high, it doesn't matter that high is the bottom here, and it doesn't even matter, again, if I want to move these around, I can do that. I would probably want, medium in the middle and maybe high here. That doesn't matter to the order here. Medium is still going to be our default when we're using our forcing functions in table views. So that's our priority view. Maybe you want to have a sort by date, and maybe you want to get rid of due is on or before a week from now because this is not a due date based view. So we'll go ahead and maybe just remove this. So now we see all tasks. You could add maybe a month out from now or a year out from now, but we're just going to keep it like that. So the last thing we have to do is figure out subtasks. So if you go into all tasks here, we have got this relation already built, subtask, parent task. And if I want to say, let's just drag these way over to the front so they're a little bit easier to work with. If I want to say that inbox task, let's just create a new one. Let's just create subtask 1. So if I want to say subtask 1 is a subtask of task 1, then all we need to do is go to either task 1, go to subtasks and find subtask 1, click that, or we could have gone to parent task and done the opposite thing. I'll just clear it so I'll show you how it works. If I go to subtask 1, parent tasks, and I search for task 1, which is conveniently right here for me, then we're going to see this is related to task 1. It's parent task. And subtask 1 is task 1's subtask. But there's a better way we can do this. So let's go ahead and create a template inside of our master database. And we're going to make this look basically like our project template, except for it is a self relation. So let's call this task with subtasks. And I like to give it another little emoji just so it's easily recognizable. Visual recognizability is very important. And I don't even know what the emoji is that I had, so we're just going to use this one. That'll probably work. Once again, all we need to do, if we open this as a page again, we'll make it full width for now, is create a linked database. Create a linked database to all tasks Scratch. And we just need to filter where parent task contains, what is this called? Task with subtasks. There you are. And if I go ahead and create subtask 2, it is going to be related to task with subtasks. Now again, we want this to be empty because it's a template. Again, you can use the same filtering mechanisms that we learned in other areas. In fact, let's go reference what our template may have in here at the moment in the actual template. So if we edit that, we can see we've got our forcing functions as we had them before. We have our done functions to clear things from areas automatically, which is very nice. And it also allows you to come into this task and then check off subtasks just as you would in any other view. But the most important thing is this forcing function to make sure that it is related to the parent task. So all subtasks of said parent task will show here. So you can create those. We've done it a zillion times. And one thing that I would love to have Notion do in the future, but it currently isn't a thing, is you currently cannot copy filters. This is something you need to recreate in each linked task thing. Now, if you can copy a linked task or a linked database, in fact, let me show you how to do that. So let's delete this. And I'm gonna make sure that this is uniquely named just so I can do this very easily. Why don't we go to one of our other views, like today. So today has the filters that we want in our subtask template. That has our forcing functions, all this kind of stuff. So what if I just go ahead and duplicate this? as long as you need the duplicate linked database to link to the same database, you can go ahead and do this. And then we can go ahead and do a move to, and we'll call it task with subtasks scratch. This may take a little bit, and I wonder if it is case sensitive. Yep, there it is. So that has gone away. Let's go back, and actually from any view, we can go find that template. There it is. So we can edit it from there. Now we've got this in here, basically as we had set it up, but we do want to change this. We don't want the date filter here. And we do want, and parent task contains task with subtasks. There it is. So there's our template. And if we're in all tasks, or if we're anywhere else, let's maybe do it in the inbox as an example, we can go ahead and create task with subtasks example. And because you can create template instances off of any new row just by clicking down here, we'll go ahead and create that. Boom. So we don't have inbox filtering here. So this is in the inbox, but if I create an example subtask in here, then it's not going to be here. It's only going to be in here. Though do note that if I click this, it'll show up. And we have a little visual indication that this is a subtask because of the little arrow. So with that, we have essentially created or recreated ultimate tasks. Really the only thing you would want to do in addition to what we've done here is maybe add some colors, add some toggles, so we can do that really, really quick. Let's just create a toggle, call it views, and bold it if we want. Move it up here, move that down here. Go ahead and select all, or can we select all these? There we go. Select them all, throw them in there. Now they're hidden if they want, and we can give them colors. So, I don't know, yellow for all tasks. Priority view is going to be blue, so it looks nice on that thing right there. We'll make you green. We'll make today be not yellow. That's one we already used. Orange. And the inbox will be, I don't know, blue. There you go. I already used blue once. I don't know. I can't remember colors. It's brown. That's a little less attractive than the one that I had set up. But that's it. Yeah. So now you have created ultimate tasks for yourself. And hopefully you know a few more things about using Notion. And hopefully you can apply what you've learned here to other concepts and other challenges. Once again, if you want to simply duplicate ultimate tasks, it's on my website, thomasjfrank.com/templates, where you can, and I guess I'll just show you real quick. If I go over to, I've got another tab. Over on this page, we have our ultimate tasks and projects template for Notion. You can download that, or you can grab my new Among Us template, my note-taking template, my video project tracker template, and lots of new ones that are coming in the future. If you have ideas for templates, let me know in the comments below, or tweet me over at TomFrankly. And yeah, let me know what you want to see. Let me know what questions you still have, and let me know if this was helpful. This is obviously like an hour-long video, so we'll see how well it does on YouTube. But I had a few people who wanted to see how this was actually done, so I wanted to put something out there for that. That's about it. So until the next one, I will see you later.